Joining me now, first class father Andrew McCarthy. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you here. Let's start like this. How many kids do you have? How old are they?
I have three, feels like 30. They're 21, 16, and 9. Boy, girl, boy.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, we have 4. We had 3 boys, then got the girl on our 4th try. So
I'm not trying anymore. That's it.
Well, listen, obviously you've had a crazy, inspiring journey. You're a Hollywood superstar. We've seen you in the Pretty in Pink and the Say Elmo's Fire, the whole 9 yards. We know about the Hollywood story, but if you could take me back to the beginning, take me back 21 years ago. I know in your book you said adulthood began when fatherhood started. So take me back there. How old were you, and how did becoming a father change your perspective on life?
I was 39, I think, when my first son was born. I was old. And I always say, and thank God, I was emotionally, I'm glad I was older. Physically, it's a young person's game, right? But it changed my life. I suppose one example I could use is I was doing a show right after my first son was born. My son Sam was born, and I was being a guest star on a guest actor on a TV show, and the lead actor started pushing me around and kind of bullying me and telling me what to do. And I remember thinking very clearly, I'm a father now. I can't take this crap. And I thought, am I going to just sit here and be quiet, or am I just going to? And I said, dude, you can't tell me what to do. We'll figure it out together, but you can't tell me what to do. And anyway, it escalated, and we got into a big fight, and I was fired from that job. And it was the only job I've been fired from so far, and I'm so proud of it to this day. I think fatherhood made me just sort of realize that, you can't take the easy way out all the time. What's softer, easier way,
Yeah, very well said, Andrew. And obviously, you have the book out, Walking with Sam, a father, a son, and 500 miles across Spain. Majority of my listeners here on this show, obviously, are dads. So what was the genesis of the book here? What can they expect when they pick it up?
Well, my son was 19 at the time. And, I'd say the biggest regret in my life was I left home at 17 and never really looked back. And I had basically no relationship with my father throughout my adult life until when he was close to death, when we sort of reconciled. And it's one of the biggest regret in my life. And I didn't want that with my son. And as he was starting to blossom and go out into the world at 19, I didn't want that to happen. I've always said that if my adult children want to have a relationship with me throughout their lives in a real and intimate way, then my life will have been a great success, and I believe that. And so I just, my son had I walked the Camino 25 years ago, which is this ancient pilgrimage route across Spain for 500 miles. And it really had a profound effect, changed my life. And I thought, with my son, I wanted to try and start altering that relationship from one of dominant parent to child to more equal adults having an intimate relationship. And I thought this might be an amazing way to do it. And he surprised me by saying, yes, that he'd go.
It's an amazing way to connect. I know, like I said, my oldest is just about to turn 17. And so I have 2 teenagers right now, 16, 15, and then my other ones are 12 and 8. But starting to turn that corner where it's becoming that relationship where they're having their own lives, taking on their own journeys and paths, and taking on more of that guiding role rather than that authoritarian role as a father is a difficult balance. And I'm just learning it right now myself. But I know that, did you kind of like journal this did you have a book in mind when you did this journey? Did you journal along the way, or did you make video chronicles? How did that work? Did you just, after this was done, you put it all together?
Well, in my other life, I'm a travel writer, and I had notions of, I figured I'd write a travel article about it anyway for a magazine anyway. And then, but on this walk, it's about 500 miles and you're going to Santiago de Compostela, which is a city in the farthern western part of Spain. And just beyond that, another 50 miles is the ocean. And the pilgrimage sort of ends at Santiago. But if you want, you can walk another couple days to the sea, which many, many people do. I had no desire to do that. I was going to finish in Santiago. But my son, this place at the sea is called Finisterre, the finish of the earth. And so when he decided he was going to walk beyond me and walk to the sea on his own, what do we want as parents and fathers is that our children go beyond us. You know, we got this far in life. Let's get them to go to college. Let's get them to be doctors or whatever. They have them go beyond, and to have my son literally go beyond where I was walking as we walked this way together, and then to see him off as he went on his journey to the sea was something sort of, the metaphor of that was just so obvious and not lost on me that I thought, oh, there's a book there, you know. And so, you know, and Sam joked to people as we were meeting along the way, because, yeah, my dad's walking across most of Spain. I'm walking across all of Spain, you know. And so once he was doing that, I realized there's a book here.
Yeah, he had to one up you there at least, and then
there's that way to look at it. Yes.
What was there any point in this journey to 500 miles where your son was like, "Hey, I'm taking an Uber, I'm getting out of here"? Was there any point where it looked like it's over here, or did it come to that?
Well, day 2, we were walking over the Pyrenees Mountains from France to Spain, and my son did say, "Dad, what's the point of this effing walk?" And, you know, he didn't say effing, you know, and he said, "Is there an airport in Pamplona?" And so I kind of got the gist of what he was thinking. And then, you know, fast forward, you know, a month later, and we arrived in Santiago, and he said, "Dad, that's the only 10 out of 10 thing I've ever done in my life." So, you know, the journey happened for him.
Wow, very cool. And I know you have the daughter in the middle there. What is it like for you being a girl dad? And do you have any kind of plans in the future to do something? Is your daughter, well, hey, when's my rite of passage coming? Do you have any kind of plans or something like that with her? Or what do you enjoy about being a girl dad?
Well, she's like, "Why don't we just go to Paris, Dad?" You know, or Tahiti. Well, my daughter is very much like her mother. So it's so interesting to watch them and their dynamic. And, you know, they'll have their, you know, she's a mini me to some degree of my wife. And to watch them fight, like they'll fight sometimes, I'm like, oh my God. And, you know, 5 minutes later, they're laughing, they're crying, and they're screaming and clawing. And 5 minutes later, they're hugging and laughing. And I'm over in the corner like a wreck. Oh my God. I don't. And so I've learned to kind of walk away from that when it's happening. And my wife goes, "Where are you going?" I'm like, and I'm not getting in the middle of this. But, you know, my daughter is actually the most savvy one in the family. And I'll often go, "Willow, what do you think?" And she has great insight. So it's so interesting. And I grew up with 3 brothers. I didn't grow up around girls at all. So to have a daughter is such a change for me that I really have to pay attention to what's actually happening, you know, as opposed to what I think's happening or what guys do or something, you know. So I learned quite a lot from her.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, like I said, we had the 3 boys, and that's all we knew. And then we had the girl on the last try. So, I mean, one of the things I'm still doing, she's 8 years old now, is trying to get better with my discipline with her. I've got it down pretty good with my sons, but disciplining her is a whole different ball game. My wife takes on a much bigger role than I should be doing. But what kind of disciplinarian are you overall as a father? And is that different than the discipline style you grew up with?
There's no discipline here. there's no rules. It's just free for all here. You know, we are extraordinarily loose with our children in that way. You know, I kind of just I'll only stop you if you're being disrespectful or if it's dangerous. Those are my only 2. I'm like, if you're being disrespectful or if it's you know, if you're going to kill yourself on that wall, I'm going to tell you to get down. Otherwise, go for it. And that was not the world I grew up in. I was terrified of my father growing up, terrified of him. And he was a very volatile guy. And so, you know, that's not the dynamic that we have in our household at all.
Well, one thing I'm curious too, Andrew, is because I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict myself. And I know that sobriety was something big in your life. It was important for you to get sober. And one thing that I'm worried about with my kids, as I said, my 2 teenagers specifically right now, is that whole scene, the alcohol, the drugs that seems to be surrounding them at every corner. And I fear that for them, just knowing, I mean, it really destroyed so much of my own family and so much of my own life, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I just worry about that, but I'm not too sure. All I can do is show them the example of living by not drinking, by not partaking in the drugs, and hopefully that example is enough to give them what to live by. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm doing it the right way. How did you kind of talk to your kids about drugs, alcohol, and get down to it?
Drugs and alcohol almost destroyed my life, you know, and I stopped at that, you know, 30 years ago now. So they've never seen me drunk or high. And thank God. thing, but I'm just honest with them. I just tell them there's no, and my kids are just like, oh yeah. And some of my best, here's a little phrase for you. And they're like, oh, did you learn that in the secret society? And I'm like, and so I just am truthful about it. But as we know, information alone and knowledge alone will keep no one from drugs and alcohol. I mean, it is a slippery slope that every teen and young person has to navigate for themselves. And also I'm like, it's your life, and I'll tell you what it did to mine, and I'll tell you what it may feel titillating and exciting and this and that, but that is a slippery slope, and it leads everyone to that spot. So you're not different as much as everyone thinks they're different. It goes there. If you stay on the train long enough, it's going there, and that's going to be your challenge and your journey to take. And it is scary as hell. Absolutely, it's scary as hell. I just want those lines of communication open. I mean, it's all the cliches, but it's true, but there's nothing, you can't lock them up as much as we want to,
Yeah.
I tell my daughter she's not getting married or dating till she's 30. And I'm not joking, but of course I am, and she has her first boyfriend now at 16. And it's just like, wow, okay, bring him over. Let's go out to dinner with him. Let's check this kid out. And my wife's like, you behave, And he's a lovely kid,
Yeah, that's another.
With my wife and I, sorry to interrupt you, I'll just finish with this. My wife and I, she goes, well, what did you think of, the young guy? I said, look, Willow was herself with him. And that's all, Willow was herself. She wasn't any kind of other thing. She was who she is. And that's great.
Yeah, that I was going to say, that's another one of those things. My daughter being 8, I have that so far out of my mind right now, but I know in a short period of time, I'm going to be right where you are, where she's having that first date. And I got to prepare myself, I got to callous my mind for those events to come. But I think, like you said, the most important thing would be the communication. It's really all I could ask for, at least to get that kind of honesty from them would be so huge. Did Sam, your oldest son, did he read your autobiography? Did he read Brat when it came out? Has he read that?
Sam's not a big reader, but he did listen to the audiobook. He listened to it twice, actually, he told me. And he loved it. He said, I learned a real lot about you, Dad. And he said to his sister, he said, Willow, if you want to learn about Dad when he was young, you should read his book or listen to his book. And my kids have never watched my movies or any of that stuff. And so I'm glad of that in a certain way. I mean, they can, who cares? But, I'm just their dad, and as it should be, not some guy, in the movie. So, or on TV. So, I'm glad that it's treated as if that's what I do. And, I write a book and then you wrote another book and, they're not interested in them particularly.
Well, they are interested in the acting. I know at least your son, your daughter, they have followed in your footsteps into the acting. What was your kind of take on that? Were you pushing them behind that, saying, hey, get into this? Or is this something they came to on their own? And how do you feel about them getting involved in the acting life?
Well, the last thing I ever wanted was my children to be in show business. So, God just laughs at us, right? So and my son is on this Netflix show called Dead to Me. And my daughter's been on Broadway 3 times now, so but I didn't want them to. It's a simple answer. But, when I was 15, acting saved my life. I walked out on stage in the High School Musical. It's The Artful Dodger and Oliver, and my life was different. I just, I had that moment of clarity. I was just like, oh my God, there I am. That's what I'm going to do. And I knew it was an important thing because I told no one, it was my secret. And I was keeping, it was like a little flame that anybody could have walked by, particularly like my dad was very volatile, like I said, and he just blow that flame out in a second. So I just kept that that was mine. And I was going to do that. And there was nobody going to tell me anything different, from that moment on. So I'm glad I didn't bring it up, because if they'd said no or whatever, I just would have created more friction, So, I can save my life. So who might I say it wouldn't there? If, a teenager, particularly a boy, needs to find something, whether, and usually it's sports or a musical instrument or something. And I found acting at 15, and, otherwise you get into all sorts of trouble when you're a teenager if you don't find that thing, a passion, so, and they started to gravitate toward that, and God bless them, there's no mystery or mystique about it in our family. It's the family business, so, and I'm always just talking about the work and this and that, and not any kind of the glamour. There is no glamour really, except these events that they try and purport it to be glamorous, which are just nerve-wracking. But So, who am I to say? So if they want to do it, God bless them,
Yeah, well said, Andrew. And again, walking with Sam, a father, a son, and 500 miles across Spain. I love the fact that this is a father-son book. This whole show is dedicated. One thing I talk about on this show a lot, Andrew, is the fatherless crisis that we have going on in our country with so many kids who don't have a father or a father figure in their life, and it's really leading to so much devastation in our country right now. And I know you said you had a volatile relationship with your father. Did you find was there any other father that came into your life? I know you said you left home at 17. Was there anybody else that kind of took on a role of that father figure during your life in a positive way?
Yeah, there were two people that I call them mentors, but I suppose they were father type figures for me. And really, I really needed that. And I didn't know I needed it till I really blossomed under their kind of eye. And that made me really wish I had that with my dad more, and I found that many of my friends, particularly when I was younger, would be older men and often physically larger than me. I would sort of gravitate toward father figure friends, and my wife is the one who actually pointed that out to me for the first time. Because have you ever noticed that all your friends are a little bit older and larger than you? I'm like, huh, and it's true. But yeah, I found a couple mentors that really changed just made me feel safe in the world and made me feel seen and backed up. And I never felt like I had any backup. And that would be the one thing I'd like to think of myself as a literally backstop for my kids. I'm back here, and I'm right here. You go out into the world, turn around, I'll be right here. You go on. You know what I mean? If that would be the dynamic I'd want with my older, kids as they get older, is for them to just sort of look behind and go, "Are you there?" And like little kids on the playground, they do the same thing. They go running off, they look to make sure you're still there, and then they go climb the jungle gym. And they do the same thing, except in bigger playgrounds in life.
And that kind of steals the thunder on this. I wanted to ask you this, Andrew. Obviously, you've had, a legendary career, Hollywood career in Hollywood, and your legacy is secure in Hollywood. But what kind of legacy do you want to have as a father?
Oh, really? Just that I was there, that I'm there, and you will be received, and I see you.
Very
it's hard to really see people. We know we want to see them, but it's hard to who are you? And to that we have to listen to them. Like my son, one of the great things about walking was he's never going to sit down and have a chat. You try to sit across the table and have a talk, it's just you're not getting anything. But you get him moving, get him physical, and sooner or later it all comes out, and then you can really see who he actually is, as opposed to who I perceive and who I want him to be, and who family lore has dictated he is, and his position in the family makes him this one. And you know what I mean? So to see who they really are is, and for them to allow us to see them, you have a relationship in my mind. If he's allowing me to see him, that's a great gift he's giving me. So just to receive that, and not judge that, is who am I to think I know best? I mean, really.
Yeah, really good stuff, Andrew. And again, Walking with Sam, a father, a son, and 500 miles across Spain. Link to the book is in the description of today's podcast episode. Last thing I want to hit you with, I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that brand new dad or for that about to be father who's out there listening?
This I have an answer for. I rarely do. When my wife was pregnant with our first son, a friend of mine's father was from the South, and he saw the fear in my eyes, and he's just a real small town guy. And I always kind of dismissed him as a hick. And he put his arm around me and said, "Andy, you just love him and keep him dry." And at that moment, I realized he's no hick. He's the wisest guy I know. And I think me and my wife still say that to this day. You just love him and keep him dry. And there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah, I love that message, man. Andrew McCarthy, it's been an honor for me. I got to say, you're a first-class father all the way. And thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here, First Class Fatherhood.
Oh, thanks. I've enjoyed it.